about those I can. I'm
Vincent Rossi, a coordinator of the Colorado Historical Society Speaker Series. I want to welcome you to this month's edition. Let me start off asking both of you and reminding myself to please put all your iPhones either on mute or silent mode. And let me just give you a quick description of the upcoming programs. On October 8th, we'll be hosting Richard Carrico, historian, archaeologist, and instructor of American Indian Studies at San Diego State University. His topic will be the latest on our past, new discoveries from the Harris site, which is an 11,000-year-old archaeological site. That'll be October 8th. November the 12th, we host Liana Boulay and Blanca Drapeau. They are San Diego River Park rangers, interpretive rangers, and they will be their topic will be the Sykes Adobe and the San Diego River Park, Our History Saved. So mark those on your calendars. Today we're happy to host two archivists from the San Diego City Clerk's archives, which is a source of gold mine of terrific information. I've utilized it, tapped into it a number of times for some of my history blog posts, and some of you may have well done so. And you'll find out more about it today. Our guest speakers are Sam Eli, who's Archives Program Manager in the City of San Diego, and she's joined by Ann Miggins, who's Deputy City Clerk. And they will be talking about the hidden treasures in the San Diego City Archives. Without further ado, I'm happy to introduce Sam and Ann. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing your Saturday morning with us. We're honored to present to you today interesting finds in the City Clerk's archives. To begin, I'm pleased to introduce Ann Miggins. Ann is the Archives Supervisor in the City of San Diego Archives and Records Management Division. Ann is a native of the state of New York and graduated from San Diego State University with a BA in theater. Ann's pastime, she enjoys hanging out with her cat Doc, and her forte is her ability to perform in any environment. She loves to organize and she welcomes any challenge you give to her. Ann enjoys and participates in historical and modern art whenever the opportunity arises. Ann is project-centric and is currently focused on finding every single historical resolution in the City Clerk archives. It is Ann's personal mission to create a complete digitized collection for the public to access. As an artist, organizer, and history enthusiast, Ann is focused on making San Diego's history fascinating and accessible to everyone. Ann's degree in theater and performance has elevated the City Clerk archives. She can deftly weave any entertaining tale that puts the story in history. I leave you all in good hands, and please enjoy the presentation, everyone.
I hope I don't disappoint. That was kind of like I'm just a person. Hi, my name is Ann Miggins, and I'm glad to be here to give you interesting finds in the archives. The agenda today so far will be a recap of who we are, what are city records, which are different than most archives because archives are generally a company like the Disney Archives, or there are private collections like the Marston Museum. But a city archives is a little different. We don't have people, we have the business of the city. It's a little bit of a difference. What makes an archive then all the interesting documents and where to find them and what that actually means, and then how we present them. So the City Archives is a division within the Office of the City Clerk. Our City Clerk is Elizabeth Mullins. We were established on September 26th of 1850. We have been around that long. As a portion of the City Clerk, it is their job to record the business of the city. But they're responsible for all of that, and they are meant to give access of it to you. They are not our records, they're your records, and it is our job to take care of them and give you a copy whenever you ask. You can't have the original, but we will give you as many copies as you want. So this is from the minutes of the 1850 when we first became part of America. And it says that the iron safe bought by Davis was appropriated for the city clerk to keeping of the safe of the city clerk archives. That is our foundation where we began. So the kind of records the city keeps are varied and numerous and extensive, and it's all bits and pieces of how money gets spent, what projects get funded and completed, the way they get completed. So the minutes, the ordinances, the resolutions, tax records are a big deal. We have a lot of those kicking around. We have the cemetery and burial records for when we started Mount Hope Cemetery, which was a big deal. One of the first people who supported it was A.E. Horton, who put a lot of money and effort to make sure that people could be buried properly with all due ceremony. We have things like the Public Works, Utilities Department. When you started a business, we had franchise records. And over time, because these records are so numerous and are so big, we ended up creating departments to deal with it as opposed to the city council. So early on, we would have petitions, like the one from Harry Potter, the boy who was denied a petition to run a taxi stand in 1905, excuse me, 1905. So anything that is initiative for a city program. My favorite one is the one about the war on English sparrows, also called the house sparrow. In 1916, they were devastating crops around San Diego, and it was an agricultural community, and they were a pest. They are not native to this land. They are not native to this area. They would drive out other native birds. And so they hired a man by the name of John Jenks, which sounds like a comic book character, I know, to kill English sparrows at 10 cents a body. It was, there's a whole bunch of documents I have on that, because that was really very interesting to me that the city did what? They paid for what? I'm sorry. Huh? So yes, we also collect photographs, but they are not often of people as much as we would like. There are lots of landscaped, and we're going to put a dam here, then we're going to put buildings here, and then there's like streets, and there's markings on it going, okay, the pipes for the water are here, the pipes for the sewage are there, the pipes for the electricity run that way. Careful where you dig. We have the videos, which are one of our most popular collections, which is our historical 1970s stormwater street views. You can cruise down the streets on YouTube of San Diego in 1970. They strapped a camera to the front seat like Google Maps before it was Google Maps. So that was really just amazing. We have audio records in addition to the minutes of the city council. We have audio council records that are going to be digitized and put up in a small collection at the moment, but it will grow shortly. We have so many maps. Most maps people are interested in are county maps because they actually sell the land. But we do have quite a few maps, especially with regards to franchising buildings and things that we make. And the mayoral artifacts, which are kind of interesting in that they are gifts from sister cities or prominent businesses or coalitions or commemorative things, and there's a cultural significance to each of them. And we keep them and house them and take care of them. And we're the only, apparently, city that seems to do this. We were surprised to learn that. So what makes an archive versus a library? Libraries are open stacks. You can wander through them and pick something up and check it out and take it home. They circulate them. Everything in a library is published. You can, if the library says we're not buying that book this year, they can buy that book next year. There's multiple copies of everything. And all of the items come from many different sources. There's Penguin books, there's journals, there's magazines, they have just store accounts, and it's got this beautiful built-in catalog system that they get to have. I'm only a little jealous. As opposed to an archive, everything in an archive is unpublished. The mayor writes a speech and he gives the speech, but it's not like it's a published piece that gets put onto a magazine or a book form. And the items don't really generally stand alone. You've got the draft for the publication saying, hey, we'd like to build a building here. And then we have the call for bids, and then you have the acceptance of one particular bid over the others, and then you have the plans, and it has to get approved by the city engineer, and then you have the resolution that says, yes, you built the building, it's according to our specifications, we accept this. Thank you, here's your payment. And so they're not an individual thing. Together, it creates a collection of items. Everything in an archive is unique to that archive, and it comes from the parent organization. It grows organically. It's not like you sit down one day and say, I'm going to write something that will live in the archives forever. Like I'm going to write a book. No, that's not how it works. You just do your job, and it becomes part of the history. And everything that happens comes later on. And if you destroy something, it's gone forever. If you say, we don't need this record, and you shred it, you can't go back and purchase it again, like you can in a library. Oh, oops, I spilled coffee on this book, we need a new one. That's not gonna happen in an archive. The description is created by the archivists and the people who work there. It does not have a lovely Dewey Decimal System, unfortunately. No. And they're closed stacks. The items don't circulate. You can't go in and check them out. They stay with us. We will give you as many copies as you want. We are happy to do so, but we have to keep care of them and make sure they don't get damaged or destroyed. So interesting documents and where to find them. When people think of interesting documents, something people want to know, they're like, oh, sex, violence, gossip, scandal. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're looking for are police files. That's what that stuff is. We don't have those things. We have other things. So what makes something interesting for us are the collection as a whole. So it's not just, here are the maps to the Morena Dam. It's, here is the map created by Sean Hennessy, and his signature is on the bottom. And here are the reports that they have in book form with pictures of progress, and they start in horse and buggy, and they end in car. The collection as a whole is the part that's interesting, because that's the commentary and the evolution of us as a people. Things that are outliers are fantastic, like War on English Sparrow. I'm sorry, what? It's a bird. Is this like the Australian word? It's the emu? Emu one? No. And then comments from citizens are always fascinating, because you get these really wild things that are so individually experienced that when it gets presented in a collection, it just sits outside and you're like, I'm not sure what to do with this, but we're going to keep it. It's very important. I don't know, but we're going to keep it. So when you view a collection as a whole, there's a psychological, a sociological perspective. In addition, what it shows is the laws that we make and care about as a society and how we approach things. And what we spend money on shows what we value. And there's a symbolic approach to them as well. And you can look at all of the issues and things that we do, and it is either a functional thing. How do we deal with the stormwater and drainage and make the city roads safe to drive on or walk on? Lighting the lights, lighting the city streets at night, and how much do we do that, or how little do we do that, and the conflict, how do we deal with the conflict in between? And there is also the perspective of symbology and theory, and just how we function as people. What is it that we do, what we value? So my favorite outlier. They literally released a pamphlet of a war to be waged against the English Sparrow, and the Fish and Game Commission, this is federal, Fish and Game Commission decided, here you go guys, kill them all. And they are pests, the English sparrow, and it's very destructive to native invasive native insects and birds, which are beneficial to man's interests, which I thought was hysterical. So here's the resolution that pays a sum of $125 for the purpose of executing and providing ways and means for the termination of the English sparrow from the city of San Diego, and from the pamphlet that they released. They have a little image, the Fish and Game Commission, the goldfinch, or the English sparrow. And the goldfinch is a wild bird of valuable song, and the English sparrow is an undesirable introduced species. And the Fish and Game Commission ended the pamphlet with recipes. Yeah, I'm going to cook English sparrow. There's the sparrow sandwich, where you take white or sweet potatoes, pare them cut in 2 parts, gash them each, clean the birds with them, and insert some butter, bake it for a little bit, and you're good. Or the casserole, where like take 20 sparrows. Sure, clean them, pare them up, chop them up, and add them to mushrooms. Apparently they go well with mushrooms and French peas. And pimentos, chopped fine. So this was one of my favorite things because it was just so wild to me. Because you go to the grocery store, you get like a chicken, bake it. I'm very not. Another wonderful, interesting outlier are things like the dentist who petitions to do demonstrations from his automobile. Yeah, in 1908, the gentleman was creating a new dentistry office, and he was advertising his dentistry office by use of wandering around in his automobile to do dentistry. He's like, no, they're never going to pay us. It's okay. And it got approved, of all things. Granted, March 30th, 1908. Go right ahead. The sorts of things that I'm like, this is interesting. What? Who is this guy? Where was this stuff? I don't know. But we have his petition, and it was granted. Other things that are interesting are anything political and socio-political. They're always dicey, so you want to be careful about this because you don't want to spend the rest of your day being yelled at by somebody. So we have this one particular and fascinating thing that happened is this gentleman got fired because he went to a parade on his day off, carried a flag on the parade on his day off, not at work, not in uniform, no reason to connect him to the city, he got fired. So one of the things that this it shows is where certain rights are protected. In some states, in some areas, you can have any political opinion that you want, and it's protected by law. San Diego was not one of them. And so this poor gentleman wrote to the city council, Dan Taylor, that he was fired from a job where he was a painter. He just painted buildings in Mission Beach, and he got fired in 1970. And when I talked to my aunt about this, she was still angry about communism, so she was like, that's right, he should have been. I'm like, but he's a painter? That's not connected? That's not, wait a minute, you're allowed to do that. And she's like, I don't care. Because at that time, it was such a big deal, and it just held on to it, which I thought was really unusual and fascinating. And so, over the time, and this is directly from the minutes, where he kept going on and on, allow me to address the council, please allow me to address the council, this is not what you always think it is, don't worry about it, or not horrible, evil people, it's just a thought. And so the resolution was that they finally allowed E.L. Richardson, the executive secretary of the San Diego section of the Communist Party, 2 minutes to speak, which is what you get generally when you go to speak at council. You get 1 minute or 2 minutes, depending on if anyone else gives their minute up. So that is the Red Scare scandal. Other things of interest that are always, somebody wants, always photographs. Photographs of notables, those are hard to find unless you know your history. But this is Franklin Roosevelt and his first lady Eleanor Roosevelt at the Expo at 1935, which I always love the photographs. I'm an art major, so photographs are my favorite. And then we have photographs of events. This was kind of one of the more fascinating, random things. So mostly it's just landscape. But this is the opening day of El Capitan, and they allowed them to fish. I have a coworker that fishes every morning, and he'll sometimes, I pass by his cubicle and he shows me these pictures. It's like, oh yeah, I caught this giant fish. I caught this, flounder or whatever. I don't know anything about fish. Like, caught a dab. Okay, and then he eats them. Again, grocery store. I don't. What? From the ocean? Okay, sure. Good on you. Good job. And then this is one of my other favorite photographs. It is a really unusual perspective of the Sweetwater Dam, the flooding stage, and the little house at the bottom of it. Yeah, 1909. At the flood stage. I was like, this is one of the glass plate negatives we have also. This is not a normal like acetate or celluloid photograph. This is a glass plate negative, which is another wonderful collection that we're dying to get out online as soon as possible. So cool. And then we have, as a collection, we have part of the mock and the PUD, and this is also one of my favorites because I'm terrified of heights. So this poor soul is just hanging out on top of the dam, having lunch, looking out over the city he takes care of. And when you have an archives, it's not the individual document or the photograph or even the chunk of resolutions that I'm intent on forever finding to make sure every one of them exists. It's the long view of here is everything that we as a people have done. Everything that we as people have built, spent our time and energy and love on making happen. And that is really what the archive collects. And it's the driest stuff you'll ever read, half of it. But the end result, the collective total in the long view, is what makes an archive interesting.
What dam was this?
February 19th, 1901.
And what dam?
What dam?
The dam?
Was it the dam identified? I guess.
It's Upper Otay Dam.
Otay.
Otay.
I have a question. You said that you have archives items that were donated to the system.
Mm-hmm.
Are they actual objects?
Yes.
And is there a way to display them or look at them? Or
Many of them are up on the website, the cityofsandiego.gov website, and you type in a little search box, mayoral artifact. And that will take you to the chunk of them.
They're actually right under the city clerk's page.
Oh, okay.
You can also find it that way too.
Yeah, and most of them are photographed and put up online for people to look at. Some of them have been lost to the ages and the photos are from before something happened. But some of them are just the most amazing and beautiful pieces of artwork. There's some cloisonné plates, there's some cloisonné framed images that they have. There are these amazing, beautiful woodwork pieces. It's Aztec, and it's a very famous image of a god in this maze of wood. It's really beautiful. That one's on display permanently in the City of San Diego archives. In the basement, we have tours that happen in October, and the public is welcome to come. There's sign up on our sandiego.gov/digital archives, and you're all welcome to come. And then you can see some of the mayor artifacts in person there. We have quarterly displays, which illuminate certain mayoral artifacts, certain documents, or certain photographs. And they are all online, as much and as quickly as possible. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. How do you archive these? Do you use keywords, for instance, like your little sparrow? Do you have sparrow or enemy of the people?
So there is a document number associated with anything the city clerk accepts. So we have a line item system where we have a box and then a folder and then the line item, and we have an inventory and a database that holds the inventory and that we can search for certain things. And we try to do a description that is accurate enough that in 100 years' time, someone will say English sparrow and it'll pop up and say, this is the ones you're looking for.
And where you locate it within your collection doesn't matter as long as you could.
As long as we can pull it.
Right.
We have certain boxes that are set aside for the cold vault, We have 2 cold vaults that are meant to keep documents and pictures for history. When you have an item that is on paper, especially modern paper, it is not quite as sturdy as linen paper or vellum. It will deteriorate with its own internal acid, and so you have to keep it cool and dark in an acid-free enclosure of some kind. This is why your newspaper, when you look at it funny for more than 10 minutes, it turns yellow because it's cheap paper, it's full of acid. Modern papers are not quite as bad, but from about 1901 to about 1970, not really good paper. It's very easy for it to deteriorate. The same with photographs. Photographs, especially color photographs and color negatives, that chemical change, that chemical process is organic. And even though it stops the chemical process, it doesn't. It continues on forever. And so the photographs that you take in the 1960s will have color changed and faded today.
Is that true for slides as well?
Yes. It's the same chemical process. So you want to keep it cold, you want to keep it dark, you want to keep it at constant humidity. So if you decide 60% humidity is where you're going, keep it there. Don't let it go up to 70, don't let it drop down to 40. If it gets too low, you'll get dry rot, which is what happens when your clothing gets hung in the closet for too long and it shreds eventually. That breakdown because it has no moisture to hold the threads and fibers together. As opposed to wet rot, which is mold. It's also another thing that will kill. Yes?
Do you charge
No.
for copies?
These are city records. They belong to the people. They're yours. If you want a copy, I will scan and send it to you. If you want a large file, I might ask you to come in and bring a flash drive if it's going to be gigantic. We also use WeTransfer very often. We just managed to transfer a video file from the digital archives to a gentleman who wanted to use it for a book, I guess. I don't know what Mr. Englishman needed.
Noah from PPS, different, doesn't matter what the public wants, we try to provide it to them as long as we have it.
Yep, it's yours. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have restrictions how people can use it? For instance, if they're going to use it to write a book and make money off of it?
We only ask that you please cite the city clerk archives.
Okay.
Cite your sources.
Cite your
Most
sources.
journalists and writers are lawyers, so we don't typically have too many issues.
Yeah. Yes.
So in your estimation, how successful was the English Sparrow?
There were letters later on in 1915, 1916, we had some letters in 1918 begging the council to please rehire John Jenks because English sparrows were a problem and he did such a fine job, so please take him back. So I think he was kind of successful, sort of. Yes.
I guess there's probably a lot about what was the incident of the Rainmaker?
Oh, Hatfield. Yeah.
We have a big collection that we're still processing.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes, we just were, right before the plague hit, we got a huge series of items from MOC and PUD. The Municipal Operations Center, which was the Public Works and Public Utilities Department. So they had one of their own collections, and there are posters, there are like things that they made, there are cutouts, they've got film, they've got exhibit things, and it's just wild. But we have the plague hit, and we haven't really had a chance to get back to getting up to it.
So how many people work to accession all that?
We have 3 of us.
We
We have 3 of us. And our wonderful volunteer, Loretta, and then our other wonderful volunteer, Silva. So it's just the 3 of us.
We just completed an animal collection that we'll be uploading online soon.
Yes, which has Bum the dog, everybody's favorite. He was a stowaway from San Francisco, literally hopped on a train, came down to San Diego, and just became the people's dog. And so everybody would feed him. There were little signs, Bum the dog eats here. And people would take care of him. He apparently was an alcoholic, and so one of them had to take him in and dry him out and be like, no alcohol for you, mister. And he would protect his town and the citizens. And he got got into a fight with another wild dog and lost one of his paws, but they took him to the vet, and he's lived a good long life. He was part St. Bernard, part Spaniel, I think. Yeah.
Are there photographs?
There are photographs, and they will be up online. He was on the first dog license.
Oh, wow.
They have it on the dog, yes.
What's the physical location of the art?
We are at 202 C Street.
We're
downtown
in
San
the
Diego.
basement of City Hall.
Would you refer to the mayor's what did you call it?
Mayoral artifacts.
Mayoral art, those things that were donated to mayors? Or-
Yes.
Okay, or mayors donated them? Or-
Typically, there were gifts from
From
different delegates,
Okay.
officials from different countries, citizens, sister cities. They come from a broad range, but it's for its cultural significance. So those are the things that we put online. But, like a coffee cup, not usually, but, maybe a silk scarf from Japan that was sent from a sister city, we would definitely, that would be something that we would put online.
So tell me again where we can find these online?
San Diego.gov.
So if you go to the city clerk's webpage, there's an option on the right-hand side for mayoral artifacts, and that's where you can view things.
So San Diego.gov, you go to City Clerk, and underneath the City Clerk is also the digital archives as well.
I'm recalling the photo you showed of FDR.
That's on there.
I would think there might be some other interesting stuff on him, because I've been told he had developed an affection for the city going back to, he was the Secretary of the Navy, or Assistant Secretary of the Navy under Woodrow Wilson in like our World War I period, and he had occasion to visit San Diego, and he kind of came to like it very much. So he may have visited a lot. I don't know if there might be photographic evidence of that.
We had 10 dry storage sites, and
13.
we have 10 for the records, and then the other ones are part of archives. But, so we're still going through a pretty comprehensive inventory, so we have not, inventoried everything yet. We're going to be there for a while. Because although the archive started in 1987, a lot of things have been put on hold, I guess we could say.
Well, there's so much.
Yeah.
There's too much. So much. There's a lot. I haven't had or found anything particular yet about FDR. Because of the Navy, it might not be something we would have. It might be something you'd have to ask them about. Frequently, that's we get a lot of requests. Some of them are very different, but a lot of the times it's that record belongs to the county, please ask them, or that's a federal program. We don't have a lot that is specific to the Kumeyaay and the Native Americans. That was federal. We do have one ordinance, I think it was, about not allowing to sell an alcohol. That's all we got. Sorry, I wish we had more. But letters that get sent to the city council are kept forever, perpetuity. So the more we find and hunt for things, the more we have collections to put online. It just takes a bit to find enough.
Do people usually show up in person to ask for whatever they're looking for, or do they write a letter?
No. Generally, they'll send an email, especially because of COVID. So we generally ask that you send an email and say, what is it that you're looking for? If you have anything specific that you know will be a city business document, rather than what do you call it, James Marston, Kate Sessions. We have some things that they did as part of their job, like we have a seed journal from Kate Sessions that's up online in the digital archives, but not about them as a person. So you would send us an email and say, hey, I want to look at what you have on San Vicente Dam. Absolutely. We're going to pull a whole lot of stuff for you. Is there anything specific that you're looking for? Because we pull it for you to come down and look at, and you can take as many pictures and photographs as you'd like.
We just had a researcher come out this past Thursday, and she does historical architecture. And she came down to look at the historical water permits and some of the residences. So that's just an example. She made an appointment about a month in advance. She came down, she found what she needed, and she left. So it can be pretty simple to, sometimes it's more than that, like the guys from the water department and the
Yeah.
researcher.
The guys from the water department were writing a book, and they were like, "Hey, can I have another copy of this picture? And I want this picture, and I want this picture." I'm like, guys, it's 4:30. The flatbed scanner will take forever. If I scan this 1200 DPI for you, you're gonna be here for at least another hour. You're sure you don't want dinner? Because we can, and we do it. If you ask for them, I will be more than happy. Just sometimes it takes a little while to process something in such a way that I would like, yes, this is good for people, take it. Because we want complete items.
So you mentioned, I don't know, it was an open house or a tour or something?
Yes.
What's the date of that?
Tours are on the Fridays in October at about 2 o'clock.
Friday at 2.
If you go to the digital archives on the city site, you can.
I tried doing that.
San Diego.gov/digital archives.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all right.
And then there's a small tile, and if you click it, it says
Okay.
Roaring Twenties. And if you click it, you can get a plethora of different lectures that we're going to be doing for the month of October, as well as different tours.
Okay.
After they max out, we're not able to take any more people. So
Okay.
you just have to reserve a spot.
Absolutely. So therefore, yeah. You first.
Are there situations where you have overlapping jurisdictions between the city and the county, or city and federal agencies where there's?
If there's a contract with them for something, like we have things on the U.S. Navy, and they built a building and had a port and built a hospital, and there's a contract with them for the land, we have copies, but not really much overlapping jurisdiction. We had a request about immigration and what does the archives have on immigration in San Diego, because we are a border town. And I said to them, we don't, that's federal. However, we have an international relations kind of division in the mayor's office, so I sent them in their direction to talk to them about it. I don't know if they would have anything or not, but that's not something we could provide.
That would be state level types of things.
Yeah.
So it just depends on what the researcher's asking for. They don't always know, so it's our job to just point in the right direction.
As best we can,
Did
yes.
you say you had city and county directories?
We have city.
Oh, city directories.
City directors.
I noticed sometimes I've looked at some of them online through my ancestry, and there'll be a section of the city, and then there'll be a section for county.
Yeah, I think at one time they were both working with one another. The county building down on Pacific Highway used to be called the city and county building.
Just to confuse everyone.
So it may have been during that era.
Yeah, we do have things like the courthouse. We have an interesting letter complaining about the courthouse because it was down by some stables and they were loud and stinky, and please move them. Those citizen letters are the greatest. They really are. I had one and I couldn't find it in time to photograph for you guys. We had a gentleman who had visited the flats where they tested nuclear bombs for America, and he grabbed one of the rocks and he mailed it to the city council with a big long, it was like written on construction paper. It was the strangest thing to me. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this, but we're definitely keeping it forever. And it was written on like colored pencil or something, to begging the city council, please have a plan for when they attack us with these bombs. We need to make sure we can get everybody out. Oh my God, this is what San Diego will become if we don't have one. And just the most fascinating things. And it was just a wonderful little tidbit to find of the 1960s. Just, I was like, what? Okay, we're keeping this forever. So when you write to the city council and mail them a rock,
Let it be known.
It'll be in the archives eventually.
Yeah.
yes, it will eventually be in the archives. And all of those, one of the things we get to have on display for the Roaring Twenties is a petition. You know those petitions outside of the grocery store you ignore? When people do sign them, and it becomes a qualified voter collection set, and it becomes a law that gets passed. We keep them. we have this set of petitions. I think they were passed around at church or something because they talk about that as well, to close down saloons between midnight on Saturday and 6 a.m. on Monday for Prohibition era. And there are names and addresses. So I would love to have that fully scanned and put up online so people can look for ancestors and grandparents and great-grandparents in the 1920s. So we have really cool stuff sometimes. Most of it's like the street grade elevation of Broadway. Most of it is. Some of it is truly fascinating.
Depends. I mean, there's even students that are doing engineering, and we have the old resolution books from the early 1800s, and people still were utilizing those resolution books in the department. So what we did was we digitally scanned them, put them online, so that they can stop being touched every day and heavily used. And now we can just point them to
Department of
getting them online. So a lot of times students even like them, engineering students, things like that. So, and a lot of times those resolutions are still very pertinent and valuable.
And he is today the setback of the house on a street, and how much, nodding, how much walkway space is there between the building, right of way. We had an entire box of right of way when they were doing digging for one of the dams, and they had water rights in right of way, and it was the northeast corner of the southwest corner of section T, something, whatever.
Easterly.
Yeah. And after a while, we kind of understood what they were talking about, but it took like almost the whole box. We're like, oh, okay, now I know where we are. The township and the section and all that.
Right.
It was wild.
Yes,
We also have a port of court. It's one of my favorites. Go ahead.
The Port of Court of San Diego in 1836. It's scanned it online, and it's also translated because it's in Castilian legalese Spanish. It's not normal Spanish. It is legalese, much like English legalese is incomprehensible to normal folk. And it is signed, and there's wills in it. There's a sale of land for a whole bunch of trees, and there's a sale of a house that somebody sold a boat. Which was the funniest thing to read. It's like, I give up and have no more attachments, and it's like this huge list of things. Yeah, that he had, and they were signed. This woman left her deed and will to, I think, her eldest son or something, a caretaker. And it's lovely linen paper, and it's been preserved. We have it sent it off for preservation. And it has been reinforced with acid-free washing paper, so we can touch it and move it. But before it got preserved, we just scanned it. So that's the one we have
Right
online.
now it's in a clamshell box, so it's very well taken care of in a whole bowl. But these are some of the earlier statement records.
Yeah, some of the earliest things we have, and it is phenomenal to have. So yes. Any other questions?
Do you have any records on the land grants?
Which ones?
Well, like Bernardo,
Down to Bernardo.
that's why I'm excited.
You might have to come look.
You might have to come look. Didn't that happen in 1960?
No, the Bernardo land grant would go back to the Mexican era.
Yes.
That might be before.
So that would have been like between the 1835 and 1840 era.
Okay.
Around the port of court time.
What did you call that? Port of court. Port of course. Okay.
There might be something in the Pueblo lands.
All the lot books, the regular lot books. But
Because
We get like one of the things from looking at the history, of the community, a lot of the rancho, like after the ranchos were created, like Rancho San Bernardo, apparently the people, Don Jose and Maria, his wife, seemed to divide their time between living out on the rancho and also they had a place in the city, in the Pueblo.
we had a guest speaker come out. Her name was Fanny Garvey. She's going to be a part of our lecture series, but she came out and did a lecture on Rancho Bernardo.
Yeah, and Julian, and the origins of Julian. So she might have some other information that she's found, but I know at one point, because Edward had bought the land, and then we joined America, the federal government wanted everyone to buy the land again, and San Diego was like, no. No. So we have these 4 volumes of like an assessor who went out to people at land in San Diego for 35 cents. What? But in 1850, 1851, 1852, 53, they have all these Pueblo land assessments and roll that they took that have been scanned, and I think those are online as well, under property records. And there might be something in there, maybe, if that was part of that.
They definitely have to research, but if you want me to, I can definitely connect you to Fanny Garvey. She's got quite a bit of information.
Any other questions? Class dismissed.
Thank you.
Thank you very